Today I am reviewing The Two Popes, and because YouTube doesn't work well with just someone opening and closing their mouth, I have to try to keep the things visually interesting. So I'm going to show off my collection of postcards because Two Popes is about exoticness. It shows the exoticness of the Vatican and the exoticness of Argentina, and it's made by a Brazilian director. So I'm going to show off a collection of postcards as a backdrop of all the places that I have collected postcards from, me or relatives. And let's talk about The Two Popes. This film is directed by Brazilian mastermind Fernando Meirelles. It stars Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins as the passing, and it talks about the passing of the torch from historic figures Benedict and Francis, who were both very much in the news. This was the first time in 2013 when Benedict retired in 600 years that a living pope chose to abdicate the throne. It was somewhat of an unconventional move. And the movie hasn't shown the aftermath as much because lately, amid all the far-right resurgence that's happening in the U.S. and Europe, there are definitely a number of cardinals who are backing the more traditionalist Benedict's views. The film is, you could say, historical fiction. It's made very much in the spirit of What's True to Both Men, but the men never actually met before the election. This is a film that I like a lot for the same reason as I kind of liked Green Book a lot last year, in that it's about the kind of dialogue that our polarized country is missing. It's a film. It's a film about two people really disagreeing each other, but finding a way to work things out. In this case, professional protocol requires that that one just kisses the other's hand and always is respectful to each other. But you can also tell it's in the nature of these two men to respect the other's views. And I think there's not even just a pleasantness, but like a beauty, like something that we really adore as audiences about that. The performances are absolutely wonderful. It's surprising because Jonathan Pryce, despite being a star in Broadway, he was a Bond villain. He's also in Brazil and Evita, is rarely a lead in movies these days. So he has a good chance of getting a Best Actor nomination at the Oscars, and that would be absolutely wonderful. The film stars also the film stars. It's also a film about ageism, or in the sense that these are two men who are, I believe, within the range of around their 70s, and you get the sense that simply because they have all this life experience, that they know how to conduct themselves in a more mature manner, but they also are dealing with the ravaging of their own systems, their own senses to some degree. And it also is, of course, when you are at that age, you've done a lot of things, and talking about regrets, especially the way that one dark spot in the history of Pope Francis, when he was Jorge Bergoglio, a Jesuit head of the priests in Argentina, was what some might view as his complicitness in the dirty war, and how he handled the situation. So the film is not. The film does actually go to flashbacks, which are among the most moving parts of the movie, because Jorge Bergoglio has to deal with the consequences of, or he has to deal with his former mentor taking a different stand than him on how to react to the military junta at that time. The movie, I think, is also amazing because, and this is not unique to Fernando Meirelles here, but he always has a way of telling the story with music that's really interesting, because you would have expected a film that might have had a more classical score or a more Europeanized score, and this film, to show a little bit more of it has some very, I might say, very unconventional music that infuses in the film to really capture the mood, to really capture especially the mood of this man who doesn't really fit into the classical mold. They do portray Pope Francis as a man who's he tangos, he's into soccer, so you see this sort of, some of the music around him is a lot, it's kind of Argentinian music or whatever. It's very interesting. The film alternates between past and present very well. It's very well lit and very well made, but not without reason. And I highly recommend it. So I think it's probably going to be nominated for Best Picture. That's the hope. I hope that Jonathan Pryce is going to be nominated for actor. I hope it's going to be nominated for screenplay, and it's definitely something that you should see.